I miss something in life. There was this emptiness inside of me.
Why am I the way I am? And why is life the way it is? How come we're alive in the first place? You know, those kind of questions that you kind of start getting if you don't believe in God.
All of these ideas that get stuck inside of our heads, these are the patterns that are limiting us.
Look at it also from the point of view of quantum physics, like through the observer effect. So some of you might know this cool thing about quantum physics.
We need to recover, and it's great to have those tools available for you.
And essentially what we're talking about is when you're directing your attention not on your programs and what your problems are, on actually giving or being an input into life itself, maybe it's through people or something that you do, we begin experiencing a certain flow state. Many of you are probably familiar with it when you're just like in the zone. Athletes call it maybe being in the game, or musicians call it muse. Everybody has their own name for it. But the idea is that whatever it is, you're doing it, and you're able to go 110%. You're able to give it all. You're able to fully be in what you're doing, and you can do something very cool. Like you manage to do something very noticeable. And the thing is, when you do that, in the experience of doing it, you won't feel the tiredness. You won't feel anything. You're fully engrossed into the activity. But once it's over, you will have to find a way to restore yourself. This is exactly what we're talking about. Some practices that help you come back to yourself through meditation and things of the sort. You can do an inhale in order to once again go into that state of, going into the game, or into this flow state. So you can go the new 110%, which is now, it's going to be a next step, and this is how you can very quickly evolve and start flowing your life in a more positive and more interesting way, to be honest.
I would like to share a few words about myself before we dive deeper into the subject. Before I met the school, I was a successful man. I was traveling the world a lot. I had my own business. I was making good money. I found a beautiful wife, and we were traveling together. But at some point, I realized that I miss something in life. There was this emptiness inside of me that I couldn't fulfill with anything. The sense of dissatisfaction with life was eating me from the inside, and I didn't know what to do with it. I finally found this school accidentally on YouTube. I was just scrolling the YouTube, and this recommended video came up to me. There was a guy who was talking about the awakening and the spiritual growth in general. I didn't know anything about it, but it resonated with me so much that I've decided to go to one of their events. I went to my first retreat when I tried the meditation for the first time in my life. But after I went through this event, it changed my life completely. My perception has changed. I received a lot of clarity. I started feeling energies which I never felt before, and my perspective of seeing things also changed. I changed my attitude towards the world, towards life in general, and towards people around me. First of all, we need to understand that if we live an unconscious life, 99% of the time we live by our mind patterns. What I mean is, when we come to this world, we come as a clean slate. We don't know anything about it, and we start to slowly but surely discover new things, searching for something, and by interacting with others, with our parents and our friends, people around us, we start to understand how the world works. We start to receive all of these ideas and concepts of how we're supposed to live, what do we need to do to be happy, and how we need to do it.
My name is Alex, again, and I started my journey in my teens. I pretty sure it happened around 14, 15, when I started going deep into psychology and philosophy and things of the sort. Really what was bugging me is like, why am I the way I am, and why is life the way it is? How come we're alive in the first place? You know, those kind of questions that you kind of start getting if you don't believe in God, because there's a bit of senselessness to life. And eventually, though, after a certain set of experiences, I got a slightly mystical experience of feeling energies as well. And I started practicing Reiki, different sorts of things, watching a lot of videos by Osho, reading some books, also learning other practices. When I was very young, I really got a deep interconnection in my head of the fact that if people don't perceive me as intelligent, then my self-esteem crashes to the floor pretty much. Got ingrained in my mind that simple equation that if you're smart, people will compliment you for being smart and they will like you and they would like to be around you, or like, I don't know, listen to what you say. And if not, and you're dumb and nobody would like to be around you, you will be alone.
When everything goes well or according to our concept of how life is supposed to be, then we think that life is good. But when something goes against our plan or our concept of being happy, then that causes the resistance. Our mind used to resist to most of the stuff that happens to us during the day because it's simply responsible for our safety. And by creating this resistance, we also create inner sufferings. I finally found this cool accidentally on YouTube. I was just scrolling the YouTube and this recommended video came up to me. There was a guy who was talking about the awakening and the spiritual growth in general. I didn't know anything about it, but it resonated with me so much that I've decided to go to one of their events. I went to my first retreat. When I tried the meditation for the first time in my life, but after I went through this event, it changed my life completely. My perception has changed. I received a lot of clarity. I started feeling energies which I never felt before, and my perspective of seeing things also changed. I changed my attitude towards the world, towards life in general, and towards people around me. And if eventually we still cannot accept someone's opinion on something or someone's pattern, we usually just break up, or that's how we divorce, that's how we lose friends and people from our life in general. A lot of our problems are coming from this disconnection from life.
Limited his behavior. How do you usually deal with it? Well, some of us drink it away, some of us smoke it off. Sometimes we try to watch TVs, movies, shows, play video games. Maybe we have a friend that we stick to and we talk with them all day because we just don't want to be alone with whatever we're actually experiencing. We run away from it. That's the generic behavior pattern. Some of us, however, do begin noticing at a certain point that, wait a minute, I can't keep living with this pattern. I mean, come on. I keep doing this. This is limiting me. I want to do something about it. Usually, we begin, searching some maybe books on the subject, some self-help, maybe some self-work, maybe coaching, maybe psychiatrist. And the idea of this is that I will ask a person that will help me or something to the sort to remove this specific program. Now, whilst this is actually usually works, oftentimes this does help, you're literally only removing that one program. And we have, hundreds of thousands of them. And that's a bit of a slow process.
So it would take us whole life to actually get rid of all of the mind patterns that are ruling our life, which kind of doesn't make sense. It's a too long process and it's too difficult to do. So what can we actually do about it? First of all, we need to understand that it exists. It's there. It is a fact. So we don't need to struggle with it. Why would you struggle with a fact anyway? We need to agree with it. If you start struggle with it, you're just going to create more tension towards it. That's how just life works. So when we accept it, we can release some of the tension and move forward. And second of all, what we can do is when we redirect our attention from ourselves to the world around us or to people around us, well, have families, friends, kids. When we direct our attention to them, start supporting them, start helping them, depends on the situation. Whatever you can do to improve the world around you and help others to understand themselves better and to live a better life or to become a happier person. Everyone have this example. You remember yourself when you was giving a gift to someone. How did you feel after that? Please share in the chat.
And essentially what we're talking about is when you're directing your attention not on your programs and what your problems are, on actually giving or if being an input into life itself, maybe it's through people or something that you do, we begin experiencing a certain flow state. Many of you are probably familiar with it when you're just like in the zone. Athletes call it maybe being in the game, or musicians call it muse. Everybody has their own name for it. But the idea is that whatever it is, you're doing it, and you're able to go 110%. You're able to give it all. You're able to fully be in what you're doing, and you can do something very cool. Like you managed to do something very noticeable. And the thing is, when you do that, in the experience of doing it, you won't feel the tiredness. You won't feel anything. You're fully engrossed into the activity. But once it's over, you will have to find a way to restore yourself. This is exactly what we're talking about. Some practices that help you come back to yourself through meditation and things of the sort. You can do an inhale in order to once again go into that state of, going into the game or into this flow state. So you can go the new 110%, which is now, it's going to be a next step, and this is how you can very quickly evolve and start flowing your life in a more positive and more interesting way, to be honest.
Yeah, it is an important part of our life where we need to recover, and it's great to have those tools available for you so we can quickly, within 10-15 minutes, recover our energy and move forward. That's why we want to try our practice today, for you to feel how it works, so you can basically use it on your daily basis if you want, longer. By training our attention, it becomes longer and longer and longer, and we become more free. So now, when we have this ability to actually choose our reaction without acting automatically, that's how we become a creator of our reality, because you can now focus on the things you want in life instead of always being immersed into the thinking process that doesn't make sense.
Look at it also from the point of view of quantum physics, like through the observer effect. You affect the outcome of an experiment just by being an observer of that experiment. Without an observer, you don't have a definitive answer. With somebody there, suddenly it collapses and it's forced to choose a form. It's kind of the same idea of how we deal with our life. It works on the same concept. You are forcing reality to be created for you due to the fact that you are a consciousness that is experiencing all of this. There is all of this reality with all of its strange behaviors. Let's take one peculiar case. Assume that I have an anger issue. I'm a very angry person, as you can see. And as a result of the fact that deep inside me there's this patterns of anger and things of the sort, maybe I don't even express it, I maybe block it inside myself, I will still have this, lens of anger, of seeing anger everywhere I look at. I will be creating a reality around me as a consciousness. I will force this reality to be created through this lens of anger. You can think of it as when light meets I forgot the name of the thing that refractors light, it refractors into a different color, and this is what's happening. The pure light of consciousness just creates all of this picture due to the fact that our collection of programs is forcing it to make this picture for us based on all the programs that we have. And it will perfectly show us exactly what is our immediate next thing that we can actually do something about, how we can actually interact in a positive way with our life. And the thing is, most of us, like I mentioned before, really try really hard to run away from it. Run away from the fact that this is happening. We don't want to accept it. We don't want to, I don't like this guy because he's angry, and I don't like this guy because he's angry. And the irony of it all is that it's all me.
Well, essentially, it is hurtful to live in the mind's illusion all the time, because most of our thoughts are distractive. So when we don't work with the attention, it creates a lot of tension within us. But when we remove the blindfold, when we perceive our life directly, we start to communicate with life. We're looking for this connection with our happening, with our space around us. And this space around us, it has a consciousness. It actually wants to interact with you. But since we're limited to this little guy here, since we're, kind of sitting in this little box inside of our head, we feel disconnected and we keep ignoring our life that way. Since life is talking to us and interacting, it starts to knock the door at some point. When we still keep ignoring, it gives us a different situation. When we experience pain and we suffer, and when we do that, we are being artificially brought to the present moment. Because when you experience pain, you don't think about what you're going to eat for breakfast, right? You're being here and now, fully immersed into this deep present moment. Why should we wait for this to happen? It would be silly. Since we have different tools to use, might as well use it. Once you reach to a certain level, you start to understand that there is something missing in your life. And essentially, you're missing the life itself, because when you're always thinking about past and future, you're missing the present moment itself.
Nothing wrong with that. However, some people find it so interesting, so get such a passion for it that they want to take it to the next level, to become a professional in the thing they do. And maybe they become so fascinated that they really are willing to put their all effort into it. And at this point, they can devote themselves to genuinely improving in it. That means, let's take the example of football players. It's a comfortable one. To become a professional football player, you start thinking to yourself, well, I can keep playing with my friends in the neighborhood or by myself in the backyard, but eventually I need somebody who can direct me where are my weak points, where I can get better, and I need people who are also professionals to train with. That means I need a coach, I need a team, a club, and at least the conditions to start doing all of this. And this is a serious approach for training. It's not like, today I feel like it, tomorrow I don't feel like it. It means that I'm going to restructure the way I eat probably. If beforehand it was just a hobby, so who cares? Now I got to keep myself in shape. I got to go to the gym. Maybe I never cared about it. Now it's part of my routine because I want to actually be a good football player. You dedicate yourself to the thing you're doing. You want to be really good at it. I'm not saying just a job, not that kind of professional, but a world class, for example. This is what you do. And it's normal. It's normal from the point of view that if this is what you truly care about. The example with football is very comfortable as well, because you don't just work with yourself. You work with a team. And the benefit of having people together with you on this kind of journeys is that there are some days that you just don't feel like it. Let's face it. It's not like the passion stays alight 365 days a year. Some days you're like, you know what, just can't do it anymore. And those days, your coach and your teammates will be like, no man, come on, we already put like 2 years into this. You have these moments and somebody else can help you get out of it. And that's normal, and that's also okay.
But one of the most important things in this, as Alex mentioned, is to take a decision. Do I really want to grow spiritually? Do I really want to understand myself better? And I want to become a happy person, which obviously everyone do, but it does take some effort. And yeah, guys, thank you for being here with us today. Our biggest wish is to help you to be happy, so find something that inspires you in life and do it, enjoy life the way it is, and help others do the same, because that's where the happiness is coming from. Thank you for being with us. For those of you who want to continue coming to our sessions, we are going to have a webinar with Q&As where you can ask your questions, how to cope with different situations in life. We'll be glad to help you with that. We'll provide a link here in our chat. So yeah, go ahead and register if you feel like. Otherwise, thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. And I believe that we're about to wrap it up. Have a great night, everyone.
Goodbye, goodbye.
And see you on the path.